Okay, y'all. So today's bell ringer. It says, how do you deal with grief? So, what is grief? Does anyone know what grief is?
There's 5 stages.
Yes, the 5 stages of grief. Okay. Well, grief is like a deep sadness, right?
Yeah.
Students, go to class. We're not taking parties until after 7:30 due to traffic. Students, report to your first block class. No parties until after 7:30. Thank you.
Okay, so grief is also often a response to like losing someone. So say like a husband dies, you often call the wife like a grieving widow. Okay, but it doesn't always have to be like a person that you lose. It could be, say you lost a game, and you're like just so grief stricken, you're like, oh, I'm so mad at myself, I'm sad, like I could have done better.
My dog died.
Yeah, I was gonna say your pet. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but like my dogs are like my children, so I feel like that's the same as losing a person. You know what I mean? But or you could have like lost like your favorite jacket or like piece of jewelry, and you're like, I'm so full of grief.
Grief over a piece of clothes.
What if it was like sentimental? Like what if it was like your great grandma's or
You
something?
can get it back. So
Yeah.
again.
Get some yarn. Start
My
it.
real life husband's been off for 2
Just find it.
Yeah, just like.
Where's the last place you looked? Where's the last place you had?
Okay, so what this is asking you is to ask how you deal with situations like that. If you've lost anything or a person, how do you deal with that? Okay, just answer in like 2 sentences. Okay, and then
My
I'm
aunt
gonna.
died yesterday.
You what?
My aunt died yesterday.
I'm
Oh,
so
no.
sorry.
I didn't know her.
Oh, okay, well then I guess that kind of makes up for it. Okay, so I'm going to give y'all just a few minutes to answer this, and I'm going to take roll really quick, okay? So if y'all haven't started on this, please finish it.
And my great uncle died
We're
back in
answering our bell ringer right now. Thank you, John. Hey. Thank you. So right now we're just answering the bell ringer question. So raise your hand if you have an unhealthy way of dealing with grief. Okay, raise your hand if you have a healthy way of dealing with grief. Both? Okay, so I know for me, I have both, and it's one, like I sleep. Like I will sleep anything off. Like if I'm upset or sad, it's not a good coping mechanism, but I will just sleep it all away. But a good one is like I love talking. Like I'll talk to like all my friends about it and be like what's your perspective? Like what do you have to say on it? Does anyone else have any like different ways of dealing with it?
I laugh about it.
You laugh about it? Okay. That's common. Yes.
Fitness.
Fitness? Oh, I love that. Yeah, just like work it off. Anyone else? No? Y'all don't deal with it? Y'all just like shove it away?
Yes.
Yeah?
Season.
Do what? Ceasing?
What'd you say? It says season. Repeat yourself. You didn't.
Okay, so raise your hand if you know why it might be important to know different perspectives of grief. Like, why would it be? Because we all just had different ways, right? There's no like right or wrong way to deal with grief. So why would it be important to like know the different perspectives of it, or like how to deal with it? Anybody? Okay. So before we go any further, I'm gonna show y'all our handy dandy wheel. This is gonna be our wheel of names. If no one raises their hand to answer a question, I'm just gonna spin this wheel and someone's gonna answer it, okay?
What was the question?
Why would it be important to deal with grief? Or to have different perspectives on dealing with grief? Yes, Jacob.
So you can understand how someone's grieving.
Perfect. I love that. So you can see how someone else copes with it. Maybe to get some new ways to cope with it yourself. Or all around, it just opens our minds to have different perspectives of situations or feelings like that. Because it makes us better learners and just kinder human beings, okay? So, like I said, this is going to be our wheel if no one raises their hand whenever I ask a question. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine. We'll work through it or we'll ask someone to help us out. But there's a difference in not knowing an answer and just not wanting to answer, okay? Because I want to hear from everyone today. I really do. I want to hear from all of y'all. Okay, so we are going to be done with this paper right now for our bell ringer. Just put your name on it and just kind of put it to the side for right now. We're going to use this as our exit ticket as well to write our exit ticket on. So we can just put it to the side for right now. We're done with it. And really quick, before we go on to today, I want to talk about yesterday. Let's do like a little recap. We read Back from More But Not Really Home, right? But we summarized it and then we found some what? Claims. Yeah, we found claims. Raise your hand if you can tell me what, bless you.
Oh, thank you.
Raise your hand if you can tell me what a claim is. Yes? No? Can anyone tell me what a claim is? Okay, we're gonna find out. Tommy, what's a claim? It's a big what? The big what?
Main idea.
No.
The big point.
The big point? Yeah, the what? The big point. What about it?
The author's trying to make.
Yeah, that the author's trying to argue with. Perfect. Love it. Does anyone remember any claims that we got from yesterday? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, Veterans Day is an awkward holiday. I mean, that's a pretty bold claim. Yes,
We
Ariana.
must keep the veterinary stories alive.
Yes, love it. Yes, Gracie.
Both types of veterans deserve equal honor.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Love that. Those were awesome. So after we found some claims, we went on to thematic statements, right? Raise your hand if you can tell me the 3 rules to a thematic statement to making one.
Pick a topic.
I said raise your hand. Thank you. Grayson. One, wait, what was it? One? You said pick a topic? Yeah, like pick a theme word. Okay, love it. Layla, number 2.
It must be universal.
Yeah, it must be universal. So what does that mean? Like it's not bound by time or like if genre. Perfect. Yes, number 3.
It must be able to apply to real life.
Apply it to real life. Yes, and then it's the overall what?
Lesson.
Lesson that you're taking away from something. Perfect. And what was our thematic statement for yesterday?
We had 2.
Okay, what? Give me one of them. Garrett.
One should always commemorate vets.
Love it. Layla.
If they're alive, it is more
yesterday's article focused on what?
That's
Veterans. Okay, so today we are going to kind of take a new perspective of those. Instead of focusing on vets, we're going to focus on those on the home front, like those who stay at home while like the friends, family, and loved ones go off to war. Because like we focused on veterans, and now we're going to see it from the perspective of those who stay at home. And by doing that, we are going to read a poem titled Ancient Gesture by Edna St. Vincent Millay. And what are we going to, hold on, let me spin this wheel. Okay, so like I said, we're going to read this poem, and we're going to have our objective today, which, Rabiana, what are we going to do with this poem today?
Analyze the author transforms a scene from the Odyssey, giving the learner a new perspective on grief.
Perfect, yeah, so we're going to analyze this poem because our author, Miss Millay, is going to take a scene from the Odyssey and just give us, like I said, a new perspective of those on the home front. Who in the Odyssey is on the home front? Odysseus is like out. Yeah,
Oh.
Penelope. Yeah, Penelope's on the home front. She's at home. Okay, so we're going to analyze how the author transforms a scene by giving us a new perspective by completing a TP cast, which I'll go over more in depth in a minute. But that's what we're doing today, and then we're going to fill out the TP cast. We're going to have a short little writing assignment. It's 2 paragraphs, really, 20 minutes, a lot of time, okay? And then after that, just an exit ticket, and then we can have our little Valentine shindig, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir. Yes, you can go to the restroom really quick. Okay, so before we dive into this TP cast, I want you to get with like a shoulder partner. So who's ever around you, just like kind of shoulder partner and talk about. I want you to think about, we read book 8 the other day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we saw Odysseus do what? Not once, but twice. Cry. Okay, Odysseus was crying. I want you to think about how we felt about Odysseus in that book, like how we saw him, how we felt about him, like our perspective on him. And then I want you to talk with your partner about if your perspective of him changed after reading our article yesterday. Does that make sense? So like how did reading this article change your view of him at all in any way, okay? I'm going to give you like just like 2 or 3 minutes to talk with a partner and just talk about how, and if you need to look at your article or your chart from yesterday to kind of support or back up your evidence, go for it. Like if your partner doesn't agree with you, argue back, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good at arguing.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I love it. I'm going to put a timer for just like 3 minutes.
Did you read it? What about you? Oh, hi. We're on shoulder partners. I mean, we're pretty close.
Okay. 3 minutes are on the board. Start talking with your shoulder partner. Just talk about if your perspective of him changed, okay?
Yeah, we're already done.
Well, keep talking. You can't just say, yeah, it did. Like, why did it?
It didn't. That's the
Okay,
thing.
okay, why didn't it?
Because it didn't.
Talk with your partner, not
He's
me.
the same kid, guy. It's not like he did anything.
But you see
There's
why
not,
he
there's not a
feels the way
big
he
changing
does.
thing. There's not like a big battle or anything that
Your
changes.
perspective
He's
on
not a veteran
Odysseus
yet.
before we read the article yesterday compared to after you read the article. Like, did your perspective on him change? Like a big vet and his emotions?
But yeah, he still is.
Exactly.
So he's not a veteran.
He's a veteran, but he's not retired. He's not a retired vet. He's just a veteran.
Odysseus is not a vet yet, though, because he hasn't made it home yet.
He hasn't made it home yet, but he's still spent 40 years.
Okay, can you,
He'll still be on.
can his perspective change? Yeah, why?
He can still my belly trying. It wouldn't matter. He's still.
Say 200 million.
Me. So I can bring the pizza.
I would not be surprised.
And then proceed to burn the house down.
Yeah.
Proceed to burn the house. Speaking of that, my friend put a popcorn in my cousin put
Okay.
popcorn in my grill and burnt it. Set it there for like 10 minutes. It was still good. And you open it up and it's like black.
I agree.
You know where
I agree, I love it.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who used a 200-minute timer?
Someone who wants 200 minutes. Is that 3 hours and 20 minutes?
What you gonna need 200 minutes for?
I don't know.
Like, don't make no freaking sense.
It does not make sense.
Maybe a workout.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thing, like, let's say you agree with it, you got the that'd be the only reason I use it to time.
But I don't really think there's a time limit on the computer here at the school. Yo, look at that computer, Gary, next to you.
Okay, y'all, so really quick, I'm just going to play a couple of short little YouTube clips so we can just get a better understanding of grief and perspectives really quick, because today we are going to be focusing, like I said yesterday, we focused on veterans. Today we're going to switch perspectives to those on the home front. So we're just going to make sure that we understand, like we're talking about perspectives and why exactly grief is important. Well, hold on now.
Given the role the brain plays in grief. When we're grieving a profound loss, we often say we're heartbroken, but it might be more accurate to call it brain broken, given the role the brain plays in grief. As your brain adjusts to the loss of someone you love, you might feel numb, depressed, or foggy, but moving through the stages of grief is natural and healthy. It helps you process your loss and begin to move forward over time. This is Your Brain On, where we explore how the world affects our brains and ourselves. The experience of grief is twofold: the immediate acute pain of the loss, and the months afterward as you mourn. The loss of someone meaningful functions as a stressor, triggering the pituitary gland at the base of the brain to produce adrenocorticotrophin, or ACTH. ACTH sends a signal to the adrenal gland to release
Remember, and students, if you're interested in participating in the Black History student activity, please go to the Parkway app and look under the quick links. We need more students to participate, please. Thank you.
cortisone, a stress hormone. Unlike, say, a temporary threat, grief is an intense, persistent stressor, so your body remains flooded with cortisone. That can cause your immune system to falter, making you feel run down. This is likely why some bereaved spouses fall ill soon after their partner dies. Even if the death of your loved one was expected, the actual event can still feel like a shock to the system. In the short term, a traumatized brain is bottom-heavy, meaning primitive areas, including the fear center, are overactive, adding to feelings of stress and despair. Meanwhile, higher cortical areas of the brain are underactive, like the anterior cingulate cortex, which helps regulate emotion. You may find it difficult to let go of minor annoyances or experience symptoms like increased heart rate for several minutes after you're startled. However, over time, the initial shock of the loss typically gives way to a deep sadness or depression as you continue to mourn. Depression can cause widespread changes across several parts of the brain, including the amygdala, which regulates sleep behavior and mood, and the hippocampus, which processes memory and regulates stress hormones. These changes disrupt core functions of our bodies and minds. As you grieve, you may find yourself sleeping too little or too much, forgetting things, or trapped in a brain fog. These feelings are difficult, but the acute pain doesn't last forever. Eventually, the sadness begins to lift at least a little bit, and then you may move on to feelings of anger or guilt before slowly moving toward acceptance of the loss. Experts agree that bereaved follow their own individual timelines, but in general, this 3-stage process usually takes about a year. There are steps you can take to feel better as you go through the grieving process. Talk therapy can be a major help. This might be group bereavement meetings or cognitive behavioral therapy, which can redirect negative thoughts. Aerobic exercise can improve mood, memory, and thought processing. Talking with friends about the person you lost can be a great comfort too. Studies show long-term grief actually activates neurons in the reward centers of the brain. And recalling the time spent with those who have died reminds us that the memories still live on.
Perfect. Okay, so did it give us, what ways did it say of how to deal with grief?
Hey NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on.
Talk about it. I mentioned exercise, just like you did. Okay, so one more video.
Perspective taking is a valuable skill in many aspects of life and leadership. When we talk about perspective taking, we're referring to the process through which one is able to see a situation from the viewpoint of another, understanding their feelings, intentions, thoughts, or view of a particular situation. It doesn't mean we have to agree with their point of view. However, there is understanding and empathy. One of the things that is clear is that we all have our own perspective, or way of seeing the world. For example, consider this image. What do you see? Please write down what you see in this image.
I'm not gonna make y'all write this down, but what do y'all see?
A duck.
Bunny.
Okay, you see both? Okay. I saw both too. Well, at first, I just saw the duck.
Yeah.
Did some of you see a rabbit? Did some of you see a duck? Why do you think that is? This exercise demonstrates that even when presented with the same scenario, or in this case, image, we may see things differently. From one person's perspective, it may be a rabbit, and for another, a duck. Some may see something entirely different. It all depends on your perspective. Many aspects of life influence our perspective, such as our experiences, values, personality traits, information available, personal biases, and more. One's viewpoint can also change depending on your physical position or in the role you play. For example, not everyone on a football field has the same view. Your perspective can vary drastically depending on your place on the field and position, such as quarterback, O-lineman, or free safety. Sometimes, to understand others and to see from others' perspectives, we must reposition ourselves, both physically and mentally. When we acknowledge that there are many ways to see the world, we quickly see why perspective taking is valuable as we work to do things like improve race relations and advocate for social justice causes. Here are a few things to keep in mind. Perspective taking allows you to consider the experiences and viewpoints of others. By doing so, you improve your ability to understand, empathize, connect, and communicate. Finally, when you practice perspective taking, you can be a more effective advocate for others and the issues you care about the most.
Okay, so did we learn any new reasons why it's important to know? Not a one of why it's important for different perspectives? Yeah. Anybody? Do we need to rewatch it? Perspectives are important so you can kind of see the bigger picture and get everything you need or all the information that you need from a situation. Okay, well anyway, to talk today, we're going to use our wheel. So like I said, so we're focusing our perspective on something new. So for our poem, well first, let me look at the TPCast. If y'all can open your green books, we're finally going to get into our TPCast. It's on the next page, so 26, on the back of what we did yesterday. Sorry, y'all, I had to turn it on. Okay, so this TPCast, it's going to help us analyze this poem. T is for title. So before the poem, we're going to guess what the poem is based off of, just based off the title. And then P is for paraphrase. You know, we're going to summarize it, just how we did with our article yesterday. C, connotation. Raise your hand if you can tell me what connotation is. Yes. What do you think about it? Kind of, sort of. It's the way Hold on. We'll pick somebody. Serenity. No, wait.
Oh, Grayson.
Grayson. Okay, do you remember what connotation is? It's the way a word makes you what? Feel. Yeah, it's the way a word makes you feel. So that's what we're going to be doing for C, finding words. And then our A is for attitude and tone. Who remembers what we said about tone?
I don't remember.
Remember, like, whenever, like, you get an attitude with your parents, they say what? Watch your tone. Perfect, love it. Good morning, Dawson.
The bus missed me.
The bus missed you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, do you have your phone?
I raised my hand. I thought someone else had raised my hand. And he just went right past me.
I'm so sorry. Well, hey, we are getting in our green books right now. Okay, we're on page 26. Okay, so the next one is shifts. This is like where you're looking for any changes in the poem. Anything that like dramatically changes or that you just see that's like different going on, okay? T, title again. So after we analyze it and go through, you're going to look back at the title and be like, okay, now it makes sense. You know, now I know what it means, or now I know what it's talking about. And the last one is theme. Raise your hand if you can.
From another teacher, like this right here. I got this from another teacher.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, so theme, we went over this. This is one of our vocab words, and then we were doing some thematic statements yesterday. But what is theme, Jacob? Sorry. Wait for the clapping to get done. I'm deaf. Okay, what is it?
The overall meaning of the thing.
Yeah, the overall meaning, like the lesson that you take away from a poem. Okay, or not a poem, a piece of work. The overall lesson that you take away. Okay, so really quick, before I pass out the poem, I want you to look at the title, the first one, the first T. It says, before reading the poem, make a prediction about what the poem is going to be about based on the title. Our title is called Ancient Gesture, okay? I want you to just think really hard about those two words. What do those two words mean? Like, what do you think this ancient gesture is? What could it possibly be? Just make your best guess. There's no wrong answers because it's just guessing. Ancient gesture. Yes, ma'am. Yes, make it quick. People still writing. Oh, how are you? I think that they already delivered this. I'll just get to Michelle and okay, y'all. So everyone made a guess on what this poem's gonna be about? Okay. So I'm gonna pass the poem out to y'all.
I didn't finish.
Oh my gosh, there might be some blank pages. Let me know if you have a blank page. Y'all know our printer is wackadoodle. Wackadoodle. So word of the day.
What do you mean? Please use it in a sentence.
Our printer is wackadoodle. That's a sentence.
Spell the word.
W-A-C-K-A-D-O-O-D-L-E. Wackadoodle.
I've heard the word doodle before.
Yeah.
I know the word whack and the word doodle.
I heard doodle.
Doodle?
Okay, so our poem, An Ancient Gesture by Edna St. Vincent Millay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, ready?
Good. Who's Edna?
Yeah, the author. Okay, I thought as I wiped my eyes on the corner of my apron, Penelope did this too. And more than once. You can't keep weaving all day and undoing it all through the night. Your arms get tired and the back of your neck gets tight. and along towards morning when you think it will never be light, and your husband has been gone and you don't know where for years. Suddenly you burst into tears. There is simply nothing else to do. And I thought, as I wiped my eyes on the corner of my apron, this is an ancient gesture, authentic, antique, in the very best tradition, classic Greek. Ulysses did this too, but only as a gesture which implied to the assembled throng that he was much too moved to speak. He learned it from Penelope, Penelope who really cried. Do it?
Yeah.
Okay, raise your hand if you have no idea what this poem's talking about.
Me.
Okay, right. So remember whenever we read Ithaca, we were like, I don't know what to do. You know, it was just didn't make any sense. Well, this is why our little TP cast is going to help us analyze it so we can like get the theme from this poem, okay? So we did our title, or we guessed our title, and now that we've read it, if my mouse would work, okay. Let's look in our TP cast chart in our green books. Everyone should have their page open. Okay, so we did title. Moving on to, let's see. This volume is just so loud.
Oh yeah, Dagan?
Dagan, will you read us what it says to do for paraphrase?
Translate the poem to your own words. Look for complete thoughts and look up unfamiliar words.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Love it. It says to translate the poem, let's underline own words. And then look for complete thoughts. Let's underline complete thoughts. Okay, so for this poem, let's look at the first two lines. It says, I thought as I wiped my eyes on the corner of my apron, Penelope did this too. So raise your hand if you can tell me what the first two lines are talking about. Like what's going on in just these two lines? Yes. She's crying. Perfect. But what does she realize whenever she's crying?
Oh yeah, Paul.
Paul.
Oh yeah, Paul.
Paul is your
Paul. What does she do as she's crying? What does she realize? Well, what's the second line say? Just a second. Who does it mention who's also crying?
You start with
Who's the wife of Odysseus?
Penelope.
Penelope, yeah. So our let's write that our speaker, the speaker is crying. The speaker is crying, comma, and as she does so, she realizes that Penelope cried a lot too. So the speaker is crying, and as she does so, she realizes that Penelope cried a lot too, as she what? What does it talk about Penelope doing?
Grieving.
Yes, but what is she specifically doing?
Weaving and unweaving.
Weaving and unweaving. Yeah, remember she's weaving that shroud for yeah, for Odysseus' dad. So it just talks about how she's weaving. So it's like as she weaves.
yeah, because he died.
Yeah, remember like she didn't want to marry the suitors, so she like just kept weaving and weaving, and then she'd undo it all at night, so she didn't have to pick a suitor.
All that is little
Okay, so that's basically what's going on in our first stanza, right? Because the rest is just explaining how she's feeling during weaving, right? It just talks about how like her neck hurts, her back, you know, like imagine if you were just sitting like this like all day, just weaving, or all night. Okay, so moving on to our second stanza. What's going on there? Who does she mention that also cries? Raise your hand. Yes, Josh. Or Tucker.
Penelope.
Penelope's in the first one, in the first stanza. Who else does she mention that cries? Yes, Garrett. Ulysses. Okay. Ulysses is another name for Odysseus. Okay, Ulysses is his Greek name. So we're talking about Odysseus here. So it mentions that Odysseus cries. But what does it say? Why does he cry? Raise your hand. Yes.
Because it was a gesture that was implied.
Okay, yeah, because it was just a gesture that was implied. And what else does it say?
It was a tradition.
To assemble through.
No, it's after it mentions that he cries. Because he was what?
To assemble.
To learn from
Gracie. What does it say? To the assembled throng, he was what?
Much too moved to speak.
Much too moved to speak. He's just overcome with all these emotions. He just cried. And what did the last... Someone alarm going on?
You know, sometimes times wake up.
Okay, let's see. Y'all.
It's gonna be amazed.
I don't know whose phone this is. But your timer went off. I don't know what it was for. Just to let you know. Okay, so back to what we were doing. What did the last two lines say about him crying? Who did he learn it from?
Penelope.
Yes, sir. Sure. Yeah, he learned it from Penelope. Penelope who really cried. So what is the author trying to say about his crying? Or
They alike.
what?
They're alike. They cry. Yeah.
It's not real.
No.
I love it,
Odysseus
Jacob.
was
Thank
crying
you.
for
Yes.
himself, Penelope was crying for him.
Yes, so let's write the speaker.
You can't see.
I'm sorry, y'all. It's hard clicking back and forth. Okay, the speaker concludes that Odysseus also cries. But what?
It's not real.
But it's not real. That he learned it from his wife, Penelope. His wife. Oopsie, sorry. Does everyone have this down? Okay. So moving on to our next row, connotation, which we just talked about, which is how a word makes you feel. Peyton, what does it say to do for connotation?
What words or phrases stick out to you? Look for patterns in figurative language, imagery, and sound elements.
Okay, perfect. Love it. So what I want y'all to do for under connotation, I want us to write positive. Do like a little dash, and then we'll do negative, a little dash, and then neutral. And a little dash. Okay. So what I want y'all to do for connotation, we're in three things: positive, negative, and neutral. So just really quick, I want you to browse through the poem and look for positive words. Only positive. Just take like less than a minute, just browse through, write down some positive words that you see. Just write it down. Any positive words that you see. Okay, now I want you to take a minute and look for negative words that you see. Any negative words? Write down some negative words that you find. Okay, now I want you to look for neutral words. See if you find any neutral words. Okay, y'all, raise your hand if you have more positive words than anything else. You have more positive? Okay, raise your hand if you have more negative words than anything else. Okay, and what about neutral? Neutral? Okay. Give me some positive words that we found. Just shout them out.
Tradition.
You said life? Okay, life. What? Light, sorry. Light. Anything else?
Best.
Do what?
Best.
Where's that at? Best?
Yeah.
Best, got it, best. Okay. Any other positive words?
Yeah.
Give?
No.
Okay. Okay, how about negative words? Give me a negative word.
Pride.
Do what?
Pride.
Pride, okay.
Tears.
Tears. Gary, what did you put?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yes, John.
Gone.
Gone. You have another one, Gary?
Can't.
Can't. Does anyone have any neutral words? Cheyenne.
Antique.
Yeah, we can put that. You can write antique for neutral. Serenity, did you have a negative word that you could give us? No, you don't. Okay. Okay. How about tired? We could write tired.
For neutral.
No, for negative.
You could put ancient for neutral.
Can you be so
Ancient.
You
You can write ancient for neutral. Okay, so what I'm seeing is more negative words. So if we have more negative words than anything else, what kind of feeling is this poem? A negative poem. It's kind of sad, right? It's just like, it's full of grief, right? That's the word that we talked about. And then, does it seem like positive and like hopeful? No, it's pretty hopeless, okay? So let's move on to our next one, which, Heaven, will you read us what it says for attitude and tone?
Notice the speaker's attitude towards the subject of the poem. This is the author's tone.
Perfect. So notice the speaker's attitude towards the subject of the poem. This is the author's tone. What I want us to do is keep your finger like on this page, but if you flip back to page 9 in your green books, it has a list of tone words, okay? There's 3 columns. There's one for positive, negative, and neutral. What are we going to look at?
Negative.
Negative, because we just talked about how it's negative words. So look through these tone words under negative and see if you find any that can relate to
Sad, depressed, melancholy.
Solemn.
melancholy. Perfect. Love it.
Solemn.
What'd you say?
Solemn. What does solemn mean?
Solemn, just sad.
Solomon
You know.
from Lord of the Rings.
Well,
Gollum.
No.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Solomon.
Okay, y'all. Everyone have a chance to look at all these tone words. Okay, raise your hand if you want to give me one that we should write down. Yes, Tatiana.
Depressed.
Depressed. Love it.
Alrighty.
You can note that over here.
I didn't see
What is another word? Jacob.
Solemn.
Solemn. How do we spell solemn, y'all, without looking at it?
SOLEM.
Do what?
SOLEMN.
Did anyone else?
Well, I already had it written down. So
Do
let's
what?
just back.
You. Is it E or you, y'all?
SOLEMN.
Okay, y'all.
I already have it.
That's a tricky word because it's like a little silent little
Solomon.
Solomon. Okay, anyways, Layla, what was your word? Melancholy. Okay, so what we're gonna do is try to complete sentence. These are some words, and these are all great words. So if you want to use one specific one that sticks out to you, you're more than welcome. Let's write the speaker's attitude toward what? What's the subject of this poem? Raise your hand if you can tell me the subject of the poem. No hands. I love it. Hold on, let me see if we haven't called on anybody. Cheyenne! Called on you a lot, but it's okay, it landed on you. Do you know what the subject of this poem is?
Crying because someone's gone.
Perfect! I love it. It's crying. Like, she's talking about crying. 3 people are crying in this poem. The subject is crying. So, let's go back to this. And the speaker's attitude toward crying is depressing, solemn, melancholy. I'm going to choose melancholy. But like I said, any of these terms are perfect. Speaker's attitude towards crying is melancholy. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I just spelled melancholy.
Melon, and then C-H-O-L-L-Y.
CHOLLY.
Melancholy. Cholly. Okay, we got a second to finish writing this down. For 1 second, I'm just going to spin the wheel really quick, and then we'll go back to that so y'all can take notes. So for our next one, we're like halfway there, y'all. We are almost done with this, okay? Shifts. Austin. Where's your new seat? Okay, there you go. I'm still not used to y'all's new seating chart. Okay, Austin, what does it say to do for shifts?
As you look for patterns, also look for contrasts for shifts.
Perfect. Yes, love it. Okay, so I want y'all to take a second and, like I said, go through this poem again and see if you see any shifts. Yes, sir. Do it. Read through this poem, look for any shifts or changes. Notice any specific words. Gary, do you notice any shifts in this poem?
The last section when the speaker starts saying, but only as a gesture which implied to the symbol tone. I found that because she's now basically saying, but his wasn't true.
Okay, I like that. She shifts her focus point from Penelope to Odysseus. Raise your hand. Does anyone else see any different shifts? No?
Sad the whole time.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all what the shift is, but then y'all are gonna have to tell me like exactly like the parts of it. Okay, point of view. What is the point of view?
Oh, it goes from Penelope to.
No, okay, the narrator, like the speaker. If you say the narrator's point of view, what are you talking about?
His view.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way that they're talking. So if we look at our poem, what's the first word? I, which is what person? First person, because like you're talking about yourself, first person. But then we keep reading. What does the third line mention? You, which is what? Second person. So that's a shift. It goes from first person to second person. But then we go to our second stanza, and what does it go back to?
First.
I, yeah, it goes back to first person. And then do we see another shift change? He. Yeah. Odysseus or Ulysses. He. And what person is that? Third person. Yeah, third person refers to like he, she, they, or like calling people by their name. Perfect. See, we know our point of view. So let's write that. For shifts. The speaker shifts the point of view throughout poem. The speaker shifts point of view throughout the poem. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Still see some people writing this down. I'll give it just one more second. Alrighty, McKenna, what does it say for our T for our next one?
Examine the title again. What does it mean now that you've read the poem? Did the meaning of the title change?
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at the title again. Ancient gesture. Has its meaning changed at all since we've read the poem and analyzed it? Okay, raise your hand if you can tell me. Y'all really kill me today with no hands. Tatiana.
Last question.
Has the meaning of the poem changed since we read it? Since like the beginning, from your guess of what it was going to be about?
Yeah.
Yeah? What it changed to?
I originally had the title, but I guess it changed to more of a meaning of grief.
Grief? Okay, I love it. Because, I mean, what's our subject again? Crying. Yeah, crying. So, what is this ancient gesture? What's it talking about? Crying. Yeah, so it's saying crying is this ancient gesture that, so we have our speaker who's crying, and she realizes that who cried? Penelope from way back when. So she's saying, like, people have been crying over their loved ones being gone forever, like all the way since Odysseus and Penelope. So I would write the title. Sorry. The title. Ooh, that scared me. The title of the poem. Speaks of how crying is an ancient gesture. Okay, y'all, so our last one, which is theme, theme. Garrett, what does it say to do for theme?
State what the poem is about and what the poet is trying to say about the subject.
Okay, perfect. So we know what the subject is, which is crying. Okay, so how does our speaker feel about that? Let's first go over. Oh, projector's overheating. Love it. Okay, well, let me flip the page because my theme's on the back. So theme. Let's first write down. I'm gonna write down the 3 rules of theme. 1. Find what? Our first rule of theme, or finding like the thematic statement.
Oh, you gotta find.
Find, topic. Okay, number 2, universal. Number 3, overall lesson. Okay. So let's pick some topics or some theme words. What are some theme words that we can conclude? Okay, let's first. Theme words are abstract nouns. Does anyone know what an abstract noun is?
Nope.
It means that it's not a concrete object. Like you can't touch it. You can't. It's not like a physical object. It's an idea or like a quality. Okay, it's like like how we talked about honor yesterday. Can you touch honor?
No.
No, it's just a quality or an idea.
Oh,
So what theme word can we get from this poem?
Sad boy.
Sean. Alright, he's not even here. Okay. What's one of the words that we talked about this morning? Grief. Grief can be a theme word. Brianna. A theme word. Or like a topic that we can say, like take away from this poem. I just said grief. Anyone else? No? Is grief going to be our only word? Yes, Cheyenne.
It's okay to cry while grieving.
Perfect. I love that. Okay. So I guess since all y'all want to talk about is grief, that's just going to be our word. So what I want y'all to do is how we set up a thematic statement. Well, we're going to write our thematic statement. Say, this poem teaches, and I want you to write and come up with your thematic statement. So what about grief can be our lesson, our overall lesson from this poem? And it has to be universal, right? So think of something, our theme word is grief, so how are you going to put grief into a thematic statement? What's this lesson that the poem is teaching you about grief, about crying? Yes?
Grieving is okay.
Yeah, perfect. Love that one. I'm going to give y'all just a minute to write these down, kind of think for a minute. Emma, what's your thematic statement? Do what? You don't what? Okay, who can help Emma out? Let's see. Layla, what's your thematic statement?
I'm still thinking, but one was like, one should be able to grieve, but one should not be able to dwell on it.
Okay, I love that. Don't dwell on your grief. Julie, Haley. Winner, winner. What is your thematic statement? Everyone experiences grief. Perfect, because we just witnessed 3 people talking about grief. Did anyone put that sometimes, well, not sometimes. So remember how I said we talked about veterans, and today we're focusing on those on the home front. So what's the difference, or like what could it be saying about that, about these 2 specific people crying? Comparing someone who's at home grieving versus someone who's crying elsewhere.
Probably grieving over the same thing, not being able to see each other.
I see what you're saying, but I don't think the poem is saying that. It's basically talking about how it's okay, or sometimes people at home like grieve more than those on the battlefield, or even worse. Like sometimes their grief is just worse. Did anybody else have one that they want to share? No? Okay, I think we went over enough. So we did it. We finished our TP cast. See, so this is very thorough, and it helps us analyze the poem and get the thematic statement from it, and it just helps us comprehend it better. So what we're going to do now is get out a piece of paper, and I am going to give y'all 15. Going on. 15. There we go, piece of paper. Put your name on it at the top. Okay. I want you to write, how did the depictions of grief in the Odyssey and an ancient gesture develop a universal theme? We have our theme, right?
Write the question.
You just picked a theme. So, how does Millay use the story of Penelope and Odysseus to convey a modern theme? How does she use Odysseus and Penelope as examples of your theme? So and just give me one paragraph. No. We're almost done. I'm going to set, since I don't want y'all to not have that on the board, I'm just going to set a timer on my phone for y'all. I'll give y'all about like 13 minutes to just write one paragraph answering how do the depictions of grief in the Odyssey and an ancient gesture develop a universal theme?
teachers, pardon the interruption. If you'll please check your email with the alphabet times as they need to go to come downstairs to see graduate sales. It does start at 8:30 with A through B, so if you could please make that determination and let the students leave if they have their information with them. Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes. When you're finished, you can just put your pencil down so I can know everyone's done. Seeing some great paragraphs. I love the length. You have about 5 minutes left if you're still working. more minutes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, raise your hand if you're still writing. Okay, perfect. So what I just passed out is a note card. On one side, I want you to do. So, I want you to do 3, 2, 1. I want you to tell me 3 things that you learned today. Anything. Just 3 things that you learned. I want anything that we talked about today. Grief, the poem, theme, thematic statements, anything that we talked about. 3 things that you learned. And I want you to tell me, or ask 2 questions that you have, if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, that just means I'm a flawless teacher and y'all know everything. So 2 questions that you have, and then 1 thing that stuck out to you today. Just like 1 interesting thing.
Do I write that on the which side then?
Hmm?
Do I write that on the which side?
No, all of this is on the same side.
So number 3 is 3 things.
3 things you learned today. Things you learned. 2 questions. And 1 interesting thing that you found, or something you found interesting today. It doesn't have to be full sentences. You can like bullet point it, really short, simple exit ticket. And once you do that, on the back, I want you to write on your understanding of like perspectives and grief and like thematic statements. I want you to give me a 3 if you're like 100% got this. I know what we're doing. I know what we're talking about. Give me a 2 if it's like 50-50. You're like so-so. You know, like I'm a little confused on what we're doing. And give me a 1 if you're like I'm totally lost. Like, I have no idea what we did today or why.
What are we supposed to do on this side again?
This side you're doing 3, 2, 1, and on the other side you're gonna give me a 3 if you understood everything today. If you know like what we're talking about, thematic statements and grief and perspectives, and just everything we went over today. Or a 2 if you're confused, and a 1 if you're lost. And make sure your name's on this, and you can turn it into the box, and you can grab your phone. It's your exit ticket.
Oh my goodness.
In the 4th block box. Put it in the 4th block box.
4th block.
Or I'm sorry, first. Put it in our box. Yes, and your bell ringer and paper that you wrote, we are also going to be turning that in today. So like I said, make sure your name's on it. So the bell ringer with our paragraph and then our exit ticket, all turn into the box, and you can grab your phone. Y'all did awesome today. Did y'all like the Wheel of Names or no? No? It makes y'all have to talk though. I feel like I don't get to hear from all of y'all all the time. Yes, you talk anyway, but sometimes it's nice to hear from people that I don't get to hear. Did anybody bring anything today for a little Valentine's shindig? You did? Oh, awesome. Okay, do you want to pass it out? No, do you want me to pass it out? Okay. Do what? Yeah. Yeah, y'all can keep it showing.
Happy Valentine's Day! I hope you got your little pencil, some candy. No, it's not today, but like I'm not going to see you on Sunday or Monday. Maybe Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Maybe.
There's 80% snow now.
What?
It's supposed to go Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, and then Thursday. They're gonna have.
She's just coming here third block.
No, she said she was coming to be here.
I've already seen her though. Bye y'all!
Passing this if y'all want candy.
Oh, what she said, she was going to talk to the siren.
At the door.
Oh gosh.